Would you be shocked to learn that so many people were committing suicide, jumping from these luxurious high-rises built right over the factories? That China decided to set up a suicide hotline. Then they asked monks to bless the factories, even though I thought it was a communist country and they don't really believe it. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, does it? They planned to hire 2,000 counselors. But if that wasn't enough of a morale booster, they also put up fencing to make sure people couldn't jump. Then they took their salaries, doubled them. Yeah, doubled them. All the way to $300 a month. Oh, where do I sign up for a life like that? Sounds like paradise. Oh, I hope China can come over and steer the global structure so we can have more of this, our great hope, all over the planet. I hate to reveal myself as a complete Star Wars geek or Star Trek geek, but I am. Star Trek, Next Generation. Shout out to Worf. Do you remember the episode, or don't say this out loud because you don't want to be a geek like me. Let's just pretend that you know nothing about the Star Trek episode with the Borg. Oh, you do. The Borg episode was, there was an enemy they couldn't defeat because it was an enemy that was half machine and half human, and they were assimilated, and they erased all the personalities, and everybody was connected to each other so they could move as one. Now, listen how the worker describes working at a Chinese factory. This is a Chinese guy. I don't know if he might be more in the camp part of campus now. He says, quote, "I think it's safe to say that the training is part of Foxconn's brainwashing process. A supervisor told us that working at Foxconn requires total obedience. You do not need to be intelligent or highly skilled. After a week of training, we concluded that at Foxconn, we shouldn't treat ourselves as human beings. We are all just machines." But it gets worse. He says, "I was placed in a dormitory that has 10 three-level bunk beds, thus accommodating 30 people. Sounds sweet. Now how much do you want that job? Finally, the lunch meal consists of 2 meat dishes and 1 vegetable dish, and rice is self-service. Though I don't recommend taking too much rice, since leftover rice does result in a fine." All right, here's why this system works. Works just the same way as it did in Star Trek. They can move as one, and they can move quickly. Here in America, we're a little slower. You got to convince people. I mean, how long have I been on the air saying, "Hey, trouble's coming"? How many, what was it, 2 years? I was saying, "Hey, please pull your money out of a 401k. Market's going to crash." No, no, no. Wouldn't it be easier if just we had a supreme leader who said, "Pull your money out," and then you had to? Wouldn't it be great? No, no, it wouldn't. In America, we have something unique. We are different. We're pioneers. We're dreamers. Edison, Disney, Lewis and Clark. No one else in the world has ever had that like we do. And China is the least like us. They move as one. Nobody sets out and breaks the rules. They move like the Borg did. And China, this is the geekiest show ever on TV. China needs that, and they've had it for thousands of years. It's what the progressive left at the time of Mussolini drooled over. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Do your own. Please don't take my word for anything. Look it up. Just Google Time Magazine, New York Times, Mussolini, and you're going to see how they were just drooling over this guy because he could move quickly. It was bypassing democracy or a republic. Now, this has always worked to their advantage. However, you can have society work as one, and you can do all this. You can get people to work in factories, working for farming communities, and it works to their advantage. The ideas of innovation when it comes to the farm, for instance. In China, they move faster than anyone else in the world. Why? Because the government allows them to reap the benefits over a certain amount of rice that they grow. So in other words, the state takes all your money for this amount of rice. But if you can break that and go above, well, then you can keep money. Well, as soon as they innovate a new idea, it spreads all over the country rapidly. They spread ideas. They work as one. That's a good thing. Here's what China is concerned about. Like the suicides, they multiply. They multiply. It's one day, then 2, then 5, then 10, then 20. They multiply quickly. The same with strikes. They're contagious. They think and move as one. A spokesman for the Chinese Labor Bulletin told the Washington Post that the unrest, quote, reflects accumulated pressure that's been building up for quite a long time. What do you say, 1,000 years? He goes on to say, what's significant about these strikes is there seems to be no fear. That's the people. But believe me, there is a lot of fear at the power structure. They're afraid of political instability. That's what the Chinese are afraid of, and they will do anything to hold on to their power. Now, why would there be politically unstable conditions? I mean, you saw the beautiful apartments they get to live in. Well, let me show you this. This is the real problem here. Imagine being on bamboo scaffolding. Here they are building. I'll show some of the apartment buildings. They build these big apartment buildings. They build everything, but they build them on bamboo scaffolding. Now they're building these gigantic new apartment buildings, and they're seeing people wire stuff on the inside of these apartment buildings for like flat screen TVs. They don't even know what a flat screen TV is. They've never had one before. They've never had a telephone before. They come out of the fields and they see this, and they're working on bamboo, and they're, wait. It's two worlds colliding hard. That's why China must have massive growth. They must have double-digit growth every year. If they don't, the system will collapse. They'll go into revolution. They've already closed some of their cities. No more people. No more people coming in. So now, what are they doing? Well, they're protecting themselves. And they're investing their money. When nobody else has money, that's when you want to have money, because you can buy everything up at a very discounted price. And that is what China is doing with the rest of the world. In 2006, if you don't think they're going into growth, look at this dam. And I want to give you, this is the Three Gorges Dam. I want to give you an idea of how big this thing is. Do you remember the Hoover Dam? The Hoover Dam was a wonder of the world here in America. Well, to equal the output on this one dam, you need 10 Hoover Dams. Or, it's no big deal, you just build nuclear power plants. And you just a few nuclear power plants to equal this one dam, it's no big deal. When's the last time we built a nuclear power plant in this country? One or this? What do you think? You think they're going to gobble up a lot of energy? You think they got a few toasters and refrigerators to sell? Their own people? 10,000-ton ocean freighters can sail directly into China's interior now, which means they can build more of those sweet apartments over factories in the middle of the country. Some scientists, when they built this dam, some scientists actually said that it's holding now so much water that they believe it's actually tilting the earth on its axis just slightly. You're not going to feel this. It's not like, what was that congressman that says, Guam's going to tip over. No. It will tilt it just enough to slow the Earth's rotation down and knock us off a fraction of a second. Kind of big. Now, we already know that China is the world's largest producer of coal. 3 years ago, they were building 2 power stations, coal power plants, every week. 2. But now they're expanding their reach. That's not enough. That's not enough. 2 coal plants a week. Not enough. In the last 3 years, China has spent $262 billion on petroleum and loan for energy deals to secure future oil production. Have we done that? China has committed to exploration, production, and petroleum infrastructure construction in more than 26 countries. Have we done that? Here are the countries. They have Australia, Brazil, Iran, Russia, Syria, Africa, Cuba. China's largest oil company is expanding a Cuban state oil refinery. That's fantastic, isn't it? Annual trade between China and Africa is now worth more than $100 billion. They're gobbling it up. The president of Rwanda said China is investing in infrastructure and roads and resources. Well, that's fantastic. Good for Rwanda. No, not so fast. We'll have to come back to this on another show. But you have to really understand what China is doing. They say they're going to build all this infrastructure. They're going to build all these roads. But who uses the roads? China uses the roads to bring the resources out. The reason why I say China is using those roads is because the Chinese are really the only winner here. They offload thousands of Chinese to go in and work and get that precious mineral or oil, and they suck it out. It's happening already. It's happening in Iraq. Why? Because we don't understand the concept of 1.2 billion people and how fragile that is, how delicate the balance is. But you will hear it in just a second. Back in a minute.